Thank you very much, Gianluca, to introduce this last roundtable of the day before the cocktail dinner. So we will try to be enthusiastic in what you are going to say. Will digitalization and open payment phase out travel card solution? It's quite a straight-on question. Maybe it needs, before I give the word to the speakers of this roundtable, they present themselves and give their opinion on this question, to give some interpretation of the question, because it should be clear, but maybe we have to precise. I would like to say it's not a debate about open payment versus closed loop versus open loop. It's not at all the question. Or EMV closed loop, white label closed loop versus traditional solution as Desfire or Calypso. No, it's really a debate about the customer. What do we think the customer need to travel? What the customer wants to use to make the payment of its trip? Do they want only to use their smartphone or a bank card? Or do they expect to really have a dedicated transport card? That is the question we are going to speak about in the coming minutes. The point of view of the customer, and also sometimes you know that truth here, error there. That means that it also depends probably of the context and environment. So first of all, I'm delighted to welcome all these speakers. Unfortunately, it misses Stephen Cools. He was the one representing the open payment and Visa. And so we are only between transport operators and authorities. It's quite a pity, because we would have enjoyed to get this debate with him. Unfortunately, today there's so many reasons for some, sorry to say that, it's a joke, not to be there, because there is a strike of EasyJet, there is another conference in Roma, there is disturbances in the trains, but for Stefan it was different. There is a COVID situation in the tower control of the airport of London, and many flights have been cancelled for this reason. So, unfortunately, he apologized not to be there and to speak about this straight-on question today. So, we welcome today, and I will leave you, if you want, to give other details about yourself, but Rodrigo Diaz, representative of CEMOVI, once again, the Transit Authority of Mexico, who you was former General Director of CEMOVI, and you are officially representing CEMOVI today. That's true, I think. And then we have also Alexandre Dominguez from TML, the Transit Authority of Lisbon and its region. Claude Camilly, representative of Île-de-France Mobility, Transit Authority, once again, but of Paris region. And Jean-Luc van Ginderderen, it's very easy, van Ginderderen, from Brussels, the STIB, S-T-I-B, M-I-V-B, the transport operator of the Brussels region. So first of all, I would like to leave you, give your point of view based on a small presentation that you have sent, and maybe we need to go. I do not remember the first. I think it's Rodrigo. Yes, it's you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks a lot, Philippe, for your introduction, because you are getting to the point. We've heard a lot during this afternoon about technology, but I haven't heard a word about people. And as a policymaker, I'm concerned about who our users are and what our users need. Because this is not only a technological problem. This is a problem that has political, social, and economic impacts. So I'd like to show you who our customers are. These are our customers. Median income of people in Mexico City is roughly $400 a month. It's a poor city. And 47% of the Mexican population, of the population of Mexico City area, works in the informal sector. That's pretty important. We live in a city of 22 million people, and roughly 1 million people work in the streets. They work for a daily payment. They get coins. It means that 50% of the population doesn't have a bank account. 67% of the population doesn't have a credit card or a debit card. This card, the transit pass, is the only plastic you will find in most of the wallets of our customers. That's very important to have into account. If you take into account our customers, these numbers are higher because these are averages. But the customers of public transit in Mexico City are the poorest half of the population. So the levels of informality are way much higher. So that's pretty important to know when you have to take these decisions. And this is the situation of most of the cities in Latin America, in Africa, in many Asian countries. So it's important to have this into account. One more thing. People who are card holders, these transit card holders, as an average, the average recharge is $1.25. The cap is $30 now, but they just charge $1.25 as an average. Why? Because they don't have $30. So that's why they have to go every 2 days to the ticket store, the vending machines, to recharge the charge. Not because they like it. It's because they don't have money. They have money from a daily base. Even if they have a card, a bank card, they don't charge it because they get coins. So it's into account that. Next slide. Next slide, Rodrigo. Okay. It's me. Thanks, Philippe. So some things to take into account. I totally agree with Philippe. It's not a traditional transport card versus open payment. It's how to implement as many options as possible. How to make things easier for the population. And some things to take into account. First, branding. I like to show this card because I think it's beautiful. But this is the image of our system. We've had the same card for 5 years. We haven't changed it. And it represents all the subsystems of a historical, extremely fragmented system environment. So for us, it's important to make the people know that there's one authority and there's one system. In fact, the card says, one city, one network. It's not a fragmented system. So it's important to let the people know that the city is behind the payment method. It's not privatized. The second thing, it's a question. Who owns the information? Because this is not only a payment method. This is a planning tool. In developing countries, in developing cities, it's a very important planning tool because it gives us very valuable information about how people move. In Mexico City, there are 15,000 minibuses operated by private operators, of which we have no idea or little idea about how they operate. If we incorporate them to this payment method, we will know how people move, and we will incorporate it to the planning system. So it's pretty important to have this information, the information that gives us this card. Third, it's impossible to consider possibilities of fair integration or some different payment methods, monthly cards, weekly cards, etc. Is it possible to implement it in an open payment system? I don't know, probably yes, but we have to develop that. One point is availability of cards. That's why, for instance, the HCE infrastructure, house card or open payment methods are good, because we don't need a plastic card. In the context of chip scarcity, it was really valuable to have virtual systems. So that's why I say it's good as an option. Let the people have the option of use something different than this. But the discussion shouldn't be this or this. Again, we have to give the people as many options as possible. The need to recharge network, it's important. That's a problem of these cards. Recharge network is a problem. Problem that don't have the open payment cards. But we have to consider both. Familiarity with technology. That's pretty important. My parents are both 80. They are well-educated people, and they don't know how to download an app. For them, it's very difficult to use WhatsApp. For elder people, especially elder people, it's really hard to use technological applications. We discovered that elder people don't even trust this. They prefer to use coins because they think they will be cheated. I don't know. This is too complicated to recharge. So we need to go step by step. We always start from the base that everybody has a smartphone. And no, young people have smartphones. But if you see people in Mexico City, you will discover that especially elder people, the poorest people, don't have a smartphone or don't have data. This is very important. So as a first step, we need to consolidate this before moving forward to other things that are more complicated. And finally, the overall cost of the system. We need to take into account that somebody has to pay the charges. In a highly subsidized system, as in Mexico, even a charge of 2%, 3% of every trip is expensive. And people are not willing to pay a bank or whatever, or whoever, for an extra trip. So it's something that we have to take into account. So the moral is, I don't agree to plan the discussion on this system or either system. The question is how to implement both. All these technologies might be good, but we have to always think in the most deprived people. And the most deprived people, at least in Mexico City, in Bogotá, in Sao Paulo, in Buenos Aires, in Santiago, don't have access to bank accounts, don't have credit cards, don't work in the formal sector, and many of them are not familiarized yet with applications, with technology. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo, for these very clear messages, recalling the public transport is inclusive. And so we go further with Jean-Luc. And so, Jean-Luc, the point of view of the Brussels regions and what you are doing in Brussels on this topic.
Okay, thank you very much. So my name is Jean-Luc van Rinnerduren. I'm from STIP MIVB, which is the public transport authority in Brussels. I'm an IT director in charge of the sales solution. The situation in Belgium is a little bit different than in Mexico, of course. You have to know that we have a strong footprint about Calypso cards since almost 15 years. And today we support, in fact, 4 support for public transport. The first one is our Calypso card. In Belgium, it is called Mobip. It's a national standard, so it means that all the public transport operators in Belgium are using the same cards, and we have also interoperability on it. So approximately 1 citizen on 2 has a Mobip card in his wallet. So it's something which is fully deployed. And we have a full range of product, 1 trip, 10 trips, the season pass, the social tariffs, etc. So it's quite used. But next to that, we had the other kind of customer, which are more the occasional customers. So they don't have a Mobip card, they even don't know what is a Mobip card, so they need to have something to travel without cards, and they can buy a contactless ticket, which was launched also almost 8 years ago, and which was sold on vehicles and on automated machines. We of course propose less product on that, 1 trip, 1 airport trip, 1 day, it's quite reduced. And then we support also the bank card. Since almost 3 years now, we have launched the EMV with the intention to target the occasional customers. We launched it in the COVID, so it was quite a special period to launch it, but we explored the business case, in fact. We didn't believe that it will go so fast, even if from a revenue perspective, it's still, I will show that in the next slide, it's still not the most value channels for us, but it's quite easy for the customer. And we propose, in fact, the same kind of a contract that we propose on a contactless ticket, 1 trip, 1 day, which we are using an ABT system with a capping on 1 day, and also the airport line. But we target the same occasional travelers, and on the next slide you will see the impact of that. Next to that, we will also launch very soon a digital ticket, fully on smartphone. It will go live within 2 months. We are in pilot phase for the moment. It's a digitalization version of a Mobip card, but without NFC, because with some smartphone operators it's quite difficult to have an agreement for the NFC. Now, if we take a look at why we launched EMV, because we already have a smart card, we already have contactless, and in fact our intention was we want a traveler to be capable to travel immediately without asking any question, how do I have to acquire a contactless ticket, which contract should I buy, how many euros will I pay, etc. So the idea is the customer is going into Brussels, he don't have anything from us. The only thing that we ask is use your bank card, or eventually your bank card dematerialized on your smartphone. You put it on the validators and you are gone. You are sure that you will pay the best price, because we will apply a capping if you travel a lot during the day, and you will pay a maximum amount per day. So quite simple from a customer perspective. We see also in the yearly satisfaction survey that this is the channel which has the most satisfaction for the customer, because they don't need anything. They can travel immediately. There are some pitfalls with EMV, because we think, yes, it's easy. It will replace all the cards and tickets. The first one is that we are dependent of the evolution of the card schemes and the bank tariffs. So this is something that we have to manage. We are not in control of that. So that's an element we have to take into consideration. Another aspect is that to put such an EMV system in place, we need to be PCI DSS certified. It puts a lot of constraints on your IT system, on your data center, on your organization, because it's not only a question of technical stuffs. You need also to follow certain process for the maintenance, for example, of the validators. Another very important aspect that we have a little bit underestimate is you need to work as much as possible online. But you know, on a vehicle, on a station, sometimes you can lose the connection. Losing a connection is quite a problem in an EMV world because it can bring problems with your revenue if the taps are not going fast enough to the banks for getting the debit of the card. Also for inspection, because it's a server-centric system, the taps have to be centralized. If the taps are not there and you have an inspection, how can you prove that you have paid for your travel? So it's quite something that has to be taken into consideration. Interoperability is also something complex due to this PCI DSS constraints. So this is something that has to be conceived from the very beginning in the design. Otherwise, afterward, it will be quite difficult to implement. And last but not least, we are using a pay-as-you-go system with a capping, but we should be very careful about that because, of course, for a customer, it's quite good because he always has the certitude to have the best tariff. But from an operator point of view, it means that we could lose some revenue. For example, when you buy a contract, for example, a monthly pass, and you don't use it or you use it a few times, okay, the season pass is already paid, the revenue is at the operator. When you are working with a pay-as-you-go and a capping system, but the customer will always pay the best price, and so it can affect your revenues. So you have also to be careful in which kind of product you propose, otherwise you will have a decrease in your revenue. If we take a look at the figures, you see this is the evolution of the sales on the left side related to the other Mobip card, etc. So for the moment, we are almost at 4% of the revenue. Of course, it's difficult to compare a yearly pace with a single tap EMV. These are not the same kind of contract and the same kind of revenue. The right side is more interesting because you see in blue, this is the evolution of sales of contactless tickets. And in yellow, you see the evolution of EMV taps. And we see clearly that the contactless ticket is strongly decreasing while the EMV is almost increasing at the same rate. We are almost at 50% for the moment, and we suppose that it will continue. The yellow curve, the red curve is the same contracts also on a Mobip card, and we see that it is not relevant because, in fact, a Mobip card is mostly used for other kind of ticket, like 10 trips or season pass, which are not in competition, in fact, with the one trip, which is quite difficult on a Calypso card because after each trip, you need to reload your card to get the tickets. So it's clear. So this shows that probably an EMV card will not replace a Calypso card, but it could replace your contactless card, contactless ticket, because for the customer, which has the same needs, it's much more easier to do like that. This was for EMV. If we take a look at digitalization, so having everything on a smartphone, yes, there are techniques to digitalize a Calypso card. This is something that we will launch within 2 months. The problem with that is, and certainly in a mass concept, is that if you want to put your card on your smartphone, you need to put something, some software in it with an SD key, with some constraints linked to the operating systems. While in a digital world, what we expect is to have a light footprint on the smartphone and essentially using APIs, server from servers. Of course, a dematerialized Mobip card is not something like that. So we think that, okay, we can use a digitalized card on a smartphone, but for us, the future is definitely to go to more server-centric solution. And these are typically ABT solution, especially in a mass context where you do not own the application that will resell your ticket. You should be sure to have the lighter footprint as possible on the smartphone to avoid to manage this complexity on an app. So for us, the conclusion of all those things is that, yes, open payment is growing, is quite easy for the customer, is reducing the total cost of ownership, for example, for contactless tickets. But it will not, for us, replace, at least in the medium term, replace the Calypso card. The card-based ticketing will stay, But of course, the volume of it will probably in Belgium decrease because we will propose other kind of things like EMV. And for us, the future is definitely to use ABT, so server-centric, in which we could use any token that we want. A Calypso card could be a token, the smartphone, an EMV smart card, eventually white-labeled if needed. And we think this is definitely the way to go to be more flexible in a digital world.
Thank you. Thank you, Jean-Luc. And maybe you push the button for the next one. Claude?
Hi. So I'm Claude Camilly, working at Île-de-France Mobility, which is the region entity that finance transport in Île-de-France. And I'm particularly in charge of support and implementing some ticketing vending machines or validating machines on new infrastructure. So to begin with, I propose you to share our perception of the landscape of the population using the public transport in Paris region. So we have regular people, we have occasional people that are French or foreigners, and after we can analyze them to people that are banked or people working in the informal sector, unbanked or underbanked and not equipped of credit card. We see in Paris region a lot of disparity. For example, people buying tickets, sometimes we have more than 30% of people paying in cash, and in other areas it's less than 10%. So we have a big disparity in Paris region. And there is the appetite of people having transport contracts on their smartphone, on their phone, or on a card. So this can vary. They can have a big appetite to have TikTok or to do some networking on their smartphone and keep their battery for this purpose and not put the ticketing system on their smartphone. So we have to cope with all of that. And we have an inclusive approach because the state, they are very directive. So they say, oh, you have to declare your tax on internet, and it's like that, and it comes very quickly. And us, we try to have an inclusive approach and to be more flexible and to not exclude anybody. So we did a quantitative study recently to see what are the perceived obstacles to digitalization for our travelers. So there is a lack of motivation to adopt the phone as the travel card. So there is a low trust in reliability on a new solution because the card works so well for 20 years. So people, they have the habit of saying, well, public transport, there are some unknown late train and things like that. Do not add that. And if there is a bug or if I have no more battery, why will I win to go on a smartphone? But I will show you later the illustration of this attitude. And they are afraid to be in fraud without doing it purposely, but just for a bug. And they have a doubt of their eligibility of doing that. And for us, we can't do massive communication on that because we don't want to exclude people that don't have a smartphone and to show that the model in Paris region is to have a smartphone, etc. So I'll show you later in our initiative, we have some low technology solution and high technology solution to not exclude anybody. And they would like to have their transport contract on the phone and travel card, to have the choice as they do with the phone, validating with the phone, with their watch, And they will have to have that. But for fraud reason, we can't offer that solution. And they have a fear of taking their phone out of their pocket when they have to validate. So they think that thief will know that here there is a concentration of phone that are going to be exposed, and so they will concentrate their activity in this area. So this is, it's very recent. We had the feedback recently, and this is what they perceive as obstacles. So this is after interesting figures. So our first initiative to digitalization is we have created a service hub to attract travelers and to make some audience for ticketing. So in our app, they can do Navigo subscription, so a subscription for 1 year, for 1 month. They can plan their travel, so have when the train will come, and they can do request for after-sales service, and they can see the passenger traffic information. So if there are going to be a lot of people in the middle of the train, or at the top, or at the end, and if their train will be very crowded or not, and also the ticketing system. So we have concentrated all these services to attract people to use the ticketing. And so the first big success is people are using their phone instead of the automatic machines at the station to put the transport contract on their travel card. So here you see every month you have more than 600,000 act of sales per month. So you see the cursor, they decide where they put the cursor on digitalization. And only a quarter of this figure, people will decide to put their contract transport in their phone with the HCE or ECE solution. So they have decided to be prudent and not go too far in digitalization. And you could tell me that we don't offer to put all the contract type on the phone. It will come, but we can see that people, they have a lot more appetite to load their card with their phone instead of queuing at the station at the first of the month than putting their contract on the phone. We have a low-tech solution with SMS Plus where people for a given line, they have a special number where they send a message and they receive their ticket. And here you see it's a bit more than 400,000 by month. This creates some problem of control. This suppresses the validation, but it works, and we make some big figure on that. Then we have offered a postpaid ticketing solution only for flat fares, but it will come for all the fares soon. And you see, we have 200,000 users that are using that solution. So they travel during the months. They don't want to have a flat fare, so they validate all the months, and at the end of the month, we bill them and they pay. And we have a new initiative now with GIE carte bancaire. We are going to have a credit card with a Calypso transport application embedded in it. And so people, they will be able to prepay their ticket as if it was a Navigo card, and they will be able with the same card to do banking things and traveling. I wanted to do a quick zoom on what we don't do. So for QR code, we don't do because there is a too low level of security, and the validation speed, it's too low. Sometimes in Paris, we see up to 45 people validating by minute. on a gate. So it's very, very quick. And with queer code, we don't have this level, so we don't do it. Open payment. When we did the quotation, the operators asked us a big lump sum to do the setup. And then on the governance of EMV, there is uncertainty on how fees and certifications and hardware retrofit will take place. So we prefer not to do. We think that it's a very good solution for flight fare, but because we have a network very interconnected, we don't see it very easily in Paris. Uplink, we haven't done anything to because there is very few people from the Paris region going in other regions, so we think it doesn't address a lot of our population. And we don't do self-validation with localization on the phone because we have device everywhere, so there is no need. And we think that there is a lack of reliability. So I wanted to show you what we didn't do. And for the figures, so we have many cards, but people have the choice, so it illustrates an appetite for them. We have 10 million cards, Navigo cards, and 6 million that are active, and 15 million validation per day, and every month they buy 10.6 million of transport contract. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Claude. And to finish with you, Alexandre, for Lisbon situation.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to thank CNA also for the invitation. Before going into the slides with the initiatives that TML is working in Lisbon, and to answer the question at the start that Philippe asked, the client wants everything because we have millions of clients and we have millions of ideas and different wants. And what we want is more clients. I think it's a common trait for all operators. One of the topics that Rodrigo was talking as well, ticketing is very important because it brings also a lot of information regarding planning so that we know what are the trips that the clients are actually making from point A to B, and let us adjust the services that we provide so that the clients can have a better journey, a faster journey to go on their trips. Because to get more clients, what we need is that the service that we provide is fast, is comfortable, is reliable, it's trustworthy, but also that it is easy to access. So a lot of the initiatives that we are developing is towards this end, the last end as well, to be able to have an easy way for the clients to access the transport systems. And for that, one of the topics is that we also have to bring other stakeholders into the group so that we can also make some evolutions. So in Lisbon, the projects that we are focusing on now, focusing on the passenger, is to release an open loop project that is integrated with other existing open loop projects in the Lisbon metropolitan area, with the idea that they can be multimodal, so that there has to be an integration between all these open loop projects, so that there can actually be a shared and common tariff for all, so that when we, for instance, implement a daily cap or something similar, each of the system does not exceed that capping. So also, as Camille was also Claude was also saying, remote reloading through the mobile phone using the NFC interface. So that is also a topic that we are already seeing in Lisbon, but we need to go further as well. We have some initiatives not going so well, but we are also evolving on that. Also have mobile app with card emulation, because we don't want to exclude someone that has a smartphone but that doesn't have a smartphone, but we don't want to exclude anyone that has a smartphone as well. So if someone prefers to have the smartphone as their main media for validation, then we should support that as well. And for the stakeholders that we need to bring into the table is to have companies. So in Portugal, a company also already is subsidized when, when they present their taxes at the end of the year, they have a benefit if they paid for transport for their employees. So what we are also aiming to do is to make it easy for companies to pay for transport for their employees, because nowadays it's a very manual process, because the client goes to the store, he gets a receipt, he then goes to the company, presents the receipt, he has to wait sometimes. You forgot to put the VAT number, you have to go back to the store, you have to come, you have to present a new ticket. So we are aiming also to have companies on this side, so that if we make it easy for companies to deal with all this process and to have the payment for the transport for all their employees done in an easy way, with the authorized reloading at the validator. So when the client presents the card at the beginning of the month, he automatically validates and reloads the card. It will, at least we expect it, it will also bring new customers into the transport service, so that if it's easy to access, then the people will come. Thank you.
Good conclusion. Thank you. So I think maybe there are some questions in the room, and if not, like it was done by Paolo, I will ask you some questions. But first of all, to give you the time, I think it's better to immediately ask to the room. Yes, Nicolas?
I do everything. Yes, I have a first question. Is if we assume here that open payment will not replace the other means or the other support, though we see it in the different presentations, what is really the business model of implementing the open payment in a network? I mean, if we assume that we will have the same revenues, or do you think it will bring new customers in public transport, or there are only the occasional that were used, other support that now will use the open payment, but it seems that the revenues will not increase because of the open payment? And do you think for you, for example, for Jean-Luc, because you implement open payment in Brussels, is the fact that open payment is replacing contactless ticket, is it for you, I mean, between the cost of the implementation of open payment and the fees of each transaction, is it economically, interesting regarding to the decrease of the contactless ticketing?
Okay, concerning your first question, independently of the business case, I think the most important is the improvement of the user experience. With EMV, you come in Brussels, you don't know everything about what is the ticketing, what are the ticketing possibilities in Brussels. You use your bank card or your smartphone, you tap it on a validator and you are done and you are sure that you will have the best price. This is highly appreciated by the customer. And it also incentivizes the customer to more use the public transport, because it was also a barrier. Huh? Oh, I don't want to take the public transport. I still continue to use my car because I don't know how to buy a ticket. I don't have a ticket. Here, anywhere, you can start your travel with public transport. So from a customer perspective, this is quite important. Also, if you put that in the perspective of a green mobility that the region want to implement, that's also the reason why we launch mass application, all those kind of things. So the business case is, of course, in a bigger picture from that perspective. From a cost perspective, in fact, I said that the business case is more positive than what we thought it will be. Of course, it's a certain investment that you have to do, but it enables us to suppress several sales channels. So we suppress, with the launch of EMV, the sales on board. We were a little bit helped by the COVID, I would say, because it was also politically sensible, but we suppressed that. So it's difficult, of course, to make a figures. How does it cost to have a sales on board sales channels? But it has definitely an impact on the commercial speed of the vehicles, because the driver has only to be focused on the driving and not selling tickets anymore. We will also very soon suppress reseller channels, which was also a channel where we relaunched single tickets and those kind of things. So this is one of the aspects. Of course, when you implement an EMV system, it's not only EMV. Behind that, we have an ABT system. And of course, as I said, that the future is to go through ABT. This is also a part of investment which is done for the future of the ticketing by using an ABT system.
Thank you, Jean-Luc. Someone else want to add something? Or we go to another question?
I have a question, and it's for Jean-Luc also. I heard Rodrigo say that they don't implement EMV because one of the reasons is because the operator loses information about the customer. But you do implement in Belgium. So I was wondering how, and if it's 50% of the travels, and I think I understood that. So how do you manage this this gap of information that you don't have with EMV?
So it's true that EMV by definition is anonymous. We don't lose more data than before, because before, who was buying a ticket, it's occasional traveler going to an AVM, buying a single contactless ticket, and we didn't even know who the customer was. So from that perspective, at least for this kind of customer, we don't lose information. But on the other side, you can incentivize them to identify themselves by providing added value services. Two examples, you can, for example, on our website, register, create a STIP account, and with this STIP account, you can register your EMV card and get a listing of all your transactions. If you need to justify that to your employer and so on, you can have these kind of things. That's one example where we capture the information about the customer, but in an indirect way, because it's at the initiative of the customer. Another example is our mass application. We launched two weeks ago a mass application. For STIP, for the moment, waiting for the digital ticket, we promote the EMV. Again, in this context, the customer has to identify in the application, because he also wants to use other modes which needs an identification. For example, a car sharer, he wants to know who you are. So you can try to capture the information of the customer by providing added value services which incentivize him to identify, create an account in whatever system you can imagine.
Okay, yes, another one, Guido?
Allora, sempre per Gianluca, volevo sapere se avete osservato che l'open loop, hai fatto vedere che tende a sostituire il biglietto, ma avete osservato nella vostra realtà se avete più transazioni di open loop, di open payment nei festivi, la sera, per i servizi notturni? Perché nella nostra esperienza abbiamo visto che la domenica o nei servizi serali chiaramente l'open payment sopperisce alla chiusura dei punti vendita tradizionali.
Not sure I understand. Okay, so your question is, how can EMV incentivize the people to more validate and
To buy ticket during the holidays, in the evenings,
yes.
in the night, during the night?
Yes. In fact, this was also one of the objectives of our business case, is to reduce what we call the passive fraud. What is the passive fraud? Is the customer that has maybe a mobile card, but he forgot to load a contract on his card, he's on the tram, he don't want to step out of the tram to load his card, he's continuing to traveling. Here, with an EMV, you don't have this problem, because you made your payment immediately. You don't have to take into account, did I buy a ticket, yes or no? No, you put your card, you validate, and if of course there is enough money on your account, then you are sure that you are right. So this was also an objective to decrease the passive fraud. The same for the person which has to travel at a not planned moment. Again, he don't have to have plan, he don't have to have something. He put his smartphone, smart card, EMV card of smartphone, and then he can validate. Of course, the people who want to fraud, they will continue to fraud, with EMV or without EMV. But so this was the objective, to decrease this kind of passive fraud.
So no other question from the room now, because I'm afraid the fourth question for Jean-Luc, and it's not fair for the other speakers. So I put the question now, and I'm speaking to... Sorry?
I have one question for Rodrigo and one question for...
Ah, yes, but I do it, and just after I give you the word. It was a question of precision for you, Claude. You show figures that I think are directly in the questions that we have today. That were these figures. Do I well understand, when you put these 600,000 of sales in top-up mode with the smartphone, and only 125,000 really using their card as a ticket on the validator, these people have the full choice. You do not, they may use whether one, but it's their choice. You are not doing something to push them in a one direction.
Yes, not exactly, because we don't have put all the contract type on the phone, but we will do it in the future, but we can see that there is less appetite to go for a full dematerialization.
Okay, so my question to the other at this table, how do you react to this? Because it is 600,000 in 1 month, so I think it's scalable, it has a real value as a demonstration. I'm not sure that other networks have 600,000 top-up or 125,000 use of smart card, mobile phone as a ticket, so I think it has a real value. How do you react to this figure, which seems to show that people are fond of cards, are preferring cards to smartphones? Maybe Rodrigo to begin, and then Alexandre, and then, of course, Jean-Luc.
I don't know. Why? I will speak from my perspective. We have open payment system in one system, MBRT. And I've used it only once, the day I forgot my transit card. It was an option. a good option for that day, for that specific situation. Why I prefer the card? Because I think it's faster. It's simpler. I'm not against the open payment. And as you said, it's a good option. But I won't promote it as the best option. It's good for us as a city because we save some plastic, because we save some cards, but it's not especially good because we don't have some information. It's not something we want to promote. We want to promote the idea to have multiple options. But we are not saying that one option is better than others. That's the point. And I think the other members of the panel said it pretty well. I'm living in Lisbon. I've been living in Lisbon the last month. And in Lisbon, there's an open payment system in Metro. I went with my child. The guy is 9 years old. So I paid with my credit card. Okay, I was inside. When I tried to pay with my children, no, he wouldn't enter. I had to leave the Metro. My child is 9 years old. He doesn't even know what money is. He won't have a credit card in the next 10 years. So we have to think in options for everybody, for children, for elder people, and open payment is a good option for some people, for tourists, for that. I think that's the point. I think we all agree in that. We're not saying that it's good or bad. It's just an option, and that's it.
Thank you. And Alexandre?
I think the IDFM numbers are very good numbers. I think also it's also a question of culture also, what people trust. And I think in one of the other panels someone said that people trust their own transport card more than they trust their mobile phones, or they want to save battery. They don't want to have the hassle level. I lost my battery and I will get a fine or so on. So the use of the mobile phone as a smart card, I think it's usable by some, but as Rodrigo was saying, it is something that is an option, and as long as we make it easy for everyone to choose their own option, we believe that it will make people use the system a lot more. So, and that's what we need, because the system has trouble with their subsidies. I think all the operators all have some sort of subsidy from state or local government. So what we need is a lot more people using the transport system. So either using a mobile phone to reload is the way to get to people, or using an EMV is the way to get to people. So we have to give them all the options.
Thank you. So a few words from, and after we have the question of the chairman. So they are priority.
Sorry. I have a question for Rodrigo. You push a lot with the use of cards. How many cards you need every month in Mexico City, a 22 million inhabitants city? And do you have some problem to buy it in the market?
That's a pretty good point. We need millions of cards because cars are subsidized. Must be subsidized in Mexico City. So since cars are cheap, many people lose cards or have many cards. So and I think it's a political decision. We are still thinking, well, we used to think about it. One option is to raise the price of card. One option is to personalize card. Again, I'm living in Lisbon. I will live there for 4 months. The first thing I did was to get my monthly card, my Navegante card. It's personalized. Believe me, I take care of that card like my children. Because it's complicated, the system to get the card, but it's the most valuable thing in my world is that card. It's personalized, it has my photo, my ID, and it gives me lots of benefits to have that card. So probably have to move forward to something like this, to implement policies to make people take care of the cards. But yeah, you're right. One good point about open payment systems is that you don't need a physical card. But we are not in time yet to move forward to the complete transition towards virtual payment methods.
The second question is for Claude. We know each other for many years. And the next year you have the Olympic Games, and in Paris it's a challenge, very huge for the ticketing system and payments. How do you think you are able to have for this challenge? And if you're just starting to substitute the paper ticket of the metro, that are a very huge number of tickets.
This is a real political problem because the Olympic Games will extra cost for the public transport system in Paris region 200 million. So we have the choice of increasing the price of the monthly ticket out of about 7 or 8 euro per month, which is a lot, or we make the tourist paying. And what is decided is to make the tourist paying. So
yeah, you have an example here.
So if the public transport ticket is expensive, people will try to optimize and take one-day ticket and one-day ticket. So every day they will go and queue and buy, and it will multiply. So from the turnover point of view, we want to make money, to not make Parisian paying, but from a ticketing system, it's a real pain. So we are multiplying the initiatives, and there will be people selling without being fixed, and everywhere in the station for SNCF, for RATP. We'll have the application, we'll have Apple, which will be launched, we'll have Google that will push notification on people leaving the plane saying upload the application to travel. So there are many initiatives, but I'm not confident, but we still have 1 year to work on it, but I'm a bit scared.
We will see. Yes, of course.
Sometimes there are silly problems that need silly solutions. And we discovered, for instance, that one way to save cards was to have the same design for 5 years. Because we discovered that there weren't many card collectors. And when governments usually have special cards for celebrating independence, celebrating whatever. And when you have special cards, and if those cards are beautiful, people buy cards. If those cards are subsidized, as in Mexico City, you have a problem. You are subsidizing collectors. So it's not sexy, but we've had the same card for 5 years. And the card won't change at least in the next year. We don't want that people collect cards. It's a payment method, not a card for collectors. It's silly, but it saves money.
You want to add something to this question? You didn't answer because there was a question about the smartphone usage. You wanted to say something, but...
Yes, I think that it's very difficult to change the habits of a customer. For example, I say in Belgium, we are working with Calypso cards since 15 years. So the customers are it's quite common for them to go to an AVM to put their car, to buy a ticket, etc.
As it is Calypso, it works very
Yes,
well.
yes, and it works very well, that's correct. But if there is a compelling event, then the customer could change. In our case, the compelling event was COVID. Why COVID? For two reasons. The first reason is that before the COVID, contactless payment was not yet developed in Belgium. We were a little bit jealous of the figures of France because it was already fully developed. But the COVID pandemic has launched really the contactless payment in Belgium. So it means that it was common for somebody going to buy a bread to pay with his card like that. And at the same moment, we propose the same user experience in the metro or in the vehicle. So it helps. Another example of still linked to the COVID is that before the COVID, you had people working 5 days work at the office, having to travel, buying a monthly pass or a yearly pass. Now, the home working, they are maybe working 2-3 days at home and only 2 days at the office. If they make the calculation, a season pass is not interesting anymore. So he wants something which is more flexible. And of course, he could try to buy some 10 trips tickets and things like that, but every 2 weeks he needs to reload it. And here it's again the fact we come with EMV. You don't have to take care about reloading something. You simply put your card and you can travel, and it is less expensive than buying a season ticket. So it's another example of compelling event that makes that it can promote sales channels. Another aspect to change the customer habits is also to play with the price. If you say this ticket is more expensive, for example, the contactless ticket than an EMV, of course, the customer will be a little bit pushed to use the less expensive
It works, I think,
yes.
even if it's in a tricky way. A last question in the room, or maybe two last questions, I don't know. I think time is running fast, Gianluca, but maybe time for one question.
Other question?
I think it's only fair. Philippe asked one in mind. For Alex, sorry. You spoke about the universal token for the open payment, and you just kind of mentioned it. But you also said you had multiple open loop systems in Lisbon, and you were going to find a way to integrate them, which is notably hard for the rest of the world. So if you could explain a bit more about that.
TML is the authority, the transport authority in Lisbon, and although we do not want to make operators slow their pace when they are able to evolve in the system, we do have the ability to make some requirements. And so what we defined is that, okay, you can advance with your system, but as soon as TML's open loop system is in place, there will have to be a definition. It was in our tender, so it will be developed now. We will have a sort of what we call the token vault. So it will be a system that will be responsible for collecting the tokens from the various different open loop systems that are implemented, and to be able to have a translation table so that we can know that token A in system 1 and token B in system 2 are the same card behind, so that we can also implement a logic where we have a daily capping, which means that I use token A in system 1, I use token B in system 2, and I reach the end of the day and I know that the cap is there. I need to, system 1 will charge this amount and system 2 will charge this amount. So something that will be developed in our project, and we will see if it works or not, but that's our expectation.
I think now it's time to conclude. Last question to the four to answer yes or no. Do you agree with this sentence? Why do transit cards still exist? Because of inclusivity of public transport? Is it a good answer for you? At least, we would say. Maybe some other reason, but at least this one, we never have to forget inclusivity. And that's why we are doing ticketing systems that are with many different technological solutions and not only one. So I thank strongly our speakers. I think it's now time to close this first day.
Thank you very much, everybody. We can close day one. So I ask you to return the headphone, please. And who will not return the headphone will not have the dinner. So it's very easy. Thank you so much, and enjoy the dinner. We have close here a marvelous cocktail dinner. So see you later.